see if I can get this done in a short amount of time because I've got things to do. So in fact, I may have to do this. We'll see how fast I can do this. I wanted to talk about, so the last video I did, we talked about the tension that we feel when it seems like we're dealing with two opposing forces, but don't know how to deal with that. So the example I had, and the reason why I wanted to initially start talking about this is because of what happened with the SEC in finding the church. And so really kind of what I saw was that there's actually a lot of tensions involved in that, but there is this idea that we have that our prophets and leadership they're called of God. And that comes with a whole set of ideas surrounding that, but that, we also know that they're not perfect, they're humans, they're infallible, and however you want to frame the SEC issue, I think it was a really good example of how these two tensions can really kind of make things hard sometimes for people who are choosing to stay in the church, or some people, the way they handle these tensions is leaving, right? So and I don't want to discount that, but I'm kind of doing this to work with people who are choosing currently to stay in the church. So I mentioned that, one of the ways that I wanted to talk about was actually prayer. And I want to do this in a way that kind of helps look at it a little bit differently. Because often when if we had a situation like this, where we're trying to find answers, right? We're trying to figure things out. We would sit down and we'd say a prayer, and we may say something like, help me to know what to do. Tell me the right answer. Tell me which direction is correct. Tell me whether prophets are from God, or I want to understand this. So we'd be asking some deep questions about it, and we would want an answer. That would be the purpose of going to prayer. So I want to reframe prayer in this instance as a way of dealing with tension versus finding answers. And maybe that'll make a little bit more sense as I go through this. So dealing with tension, or feeling more comfortable in tension as we're experiencing tension, at least in particular this kind of tension that I'm talking about, where you have these kind of two polarities and we're trying to navigate them. And not only just learning to deal, it's more of a way of calming the reactivity that we feel when we feel these tensions. Because what typically happens is we freak out. We have these two opposing polarities and we don't know what to do. And so we go into fight or flight. And we fight or we fight. Flight, right? That's kind of the idea. And both of those are reactive forces. And so I would say the way if we were to typically utilize prayer in this paradigm, we would want that answer because we'd want to know what to do. We'd want to know, so we'd either be praying to tell me what to do so I can make the right answer or the right choice, or praying, or probably just completely removing yourself from the situation. And sometimes what we do is putting it on a shelf. I think we use various terms for this. So we would find some ways to remove ourselves from that tension without actually coming to some sense of peace with it. So I want to talk about using prayer as a way to sit in that tension, become more comfortable with that tension, and also develop a relationship versus create a desired response with the prayer. Now, I'm not saying that you aren't going to want to respond some way, but to utilize prayer as a way to navigate tension. So I wanted to read, or at least talk a little bit about something that I may have to finish this. So I'll just call this part 1, and I'm going to come back and talk more about that concept.